Yo, what's going on, guys? Dr. Schwartz here. Welcome back to another Gears 5 video. This is going to be a tier list ranking for the support classes in Horde. So those will be the Combat Medic, Jack, Mechanic, Robotics Expert, and Tactician. I'm going to be ranking them from excellent, above average, average, below average, and cards I wouldn't recommend using. For each skill card, I'll be ranking them in this way, and then do it for each class. So I'm going to have timestamps on the screen coming up that will show you. If you want to watch this particular class, you can go to that timestamp and then watch the rankings for that particular class. I'll also have that in the description as well. Feel free to comment if you agree or disagree with the ranking or something. I'm making this just to increase engagement for the game. Yeah, this is something I want to do for a while, so let's get started here. This is the Combat Medic ranking here, so we get all the Combat Medic skill cards down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank the cards by the order in which they appear, and then we'll just kind of summarize them and then move on to the next class. So let's go. Custom Lancer, I'll probably put in above average. The Combat Medic isn't really a high DPS class, but having this card increases your Lancer damage. For the Lancer, the Retro Lancer, and the Lancer GL. It's just a solid DPS card. Pretty much the only card really that is going to make the Combat Medic a decent damage dealer. It's not a demo or a tact or a gunner or a pilot, but running this card makes it somewhat viable. You can kill some of the smaller enemies with more ease, so above average. Dodge, I'd say it's below average. It's ballistic damage resistance beyond 5 meters. Like I mentioned before, the damage resistance cards are fine, but by themselves, they're not great standalone cards. Once you pair them with multiple cards, they're good. Moving on to Get Up, I think that's above average as well. Team Revive gives you and teammates 80% stim. I think that's really valuable in situations where you're getting overrun, so you do need a little bit of health. Heals you and gives you stim, which is nice. The reason I don't have it in excellent is because stim is nice, but once you're getting mowed down, you can get revived and that can immediately go away, which is why I have another card ranked above it. You'll see in a second. Grenade Pouch, I put do not use. This was probably an average card at one point, but they reduced the ultimate recharge time of the class. It used to be like 8 minutes at one point, now it's like 4. So you really don't need this card. It's not really worth running. I think getting enough headshots or getting enough damage will bring the ultimate back anyway quick enough, so I don't think it's a card worth running in Horde. Healing Bounty is average. This is anyone that kills your marked target heals for 1500 HP. It seems like it sounds better than what it actually is. Could be useful in certain situations, but I think there are some other cards that are better for regenerating health than Healing Bounty. It's alright. It's good, but not as good as some of the other cards. Helpful Headshots. This is excellent. This is a card I would recommend running no matter what. I mean, this is a card that I think is a must-have. It provides stim upon headshot hits to yourself and nearby allies. So get yourself a Lancer, pair it with Custom Lancer. You can start headshotting enemies with your Lancer bullets. Any bullets really, and you'll get stim for yourself and any teammates within 10 meters of you. Really good on maps where there's triple lethal or extra health or something like that, where you need extra survivability in certain situations. Intervention, one of the better gold cards in the game. It used to be, before they buffed it, you used to only revive somebody if you killed somebody within 10 meters of the kill if you have a teammate down. Now it's 20, so that's a lot more useful, especially when reviving classes like that are CQC, like Execution Nomad, Blade Master, Infiltrator. This is a card that can benefit those classes, and also just a great skill card that involves helping you and your helping teammates. So whatever, this is an assistance class, right? So excellent card for that. Probably put Modified Snub in maybe a do not use, simply just because there's a starting 5 that's certainly much better. Yeah, you do get the pistol damage increase, but sooner or later you have perks that'll increase it, critical damage or your health. So running Custom Lancer and running a Sniper is a lot more effective. So there's really not a use for this card in Horde. Overdoing it I think is excellent. I would probably prefer this over Get Up, really, because not that Get Up is terrible, it's still a good card. I just think overdoing it is more useful. It gives you Team Revive, heals revived friendlies for 11 seconds. So that's a lot better than Stim. Because Stim, you can get shot with the Multisign and and it can go away. With overdoing it, you can get Team Revived, and you can get health regen, which undelayed health regen, and damage resistance for 11 seconds. That's enough time to get to safety. So I think that's a little more valuable than get up. Perfect condition, like I'd say, is probably perfect condition and Razor's Edge, probably below average. When they're combined, I would say the effects of them are average, but by themselves, they're just too little of damage resistance to really matter. Because this one is damage resistance 32% when over 50% health. One is damage resistance when it's under 50% health. I guess if you paired it with dodge, the combination of these cards could be pretty good. But as standalone cards, they're not too great, which is why I have them below average. Now, if you want to run a damage resistance build, you would be taking away from some of the stim and DPS cards. But again, I think these are cards that they just split up just to add more cards in the game, because standalone they're just not as useful as some of the other cards. So suppressor recharge I wouldn't use either. So this paired with a grenade pouch, there was a time where this card was useful, but grenade kills recharge team revive 125 seconds, so like 2 kills get your ultimate back. But like, you really don't need the skill card anymore, just doing enough damage with the perks and the sniper. Getting headshots with a sniper will probably bring your ultimate back quickly, and even spamming GLs on like a boss or something, or Scions or something, will recharge it quick enough. So this is really not worth running. Team repair, I would say, is excellent. Probably one of the most useful cards for the class. Probably one of the most useful cards for any class in the game, I think. Revives all fortifications by 50%. So if you go down by an enemy or by yourself, you can revive all fortifications, get half of their health back in one revive. Extremely helpful to mechanics or any engineer that you're having, especially if you have a large base, or if it's right after a boss wave. You can go down on purpose, or you can go down by having the last enemy melee you or something, and you can use it. Excellent card. Yeah, that's pretty much the tier list for the combat mythic. Like grenade cards, again, not too useful anymore. Damage resistance cards are okay, but they're better if they're multiple or paired together. And then these 5 or 6 are pretty much always in the rotation here. Alright guys, this is the skill card tier list for Jack. So obviously Jack is only in Horde, so there's only going to be a skill card for Horde mode. Ranking them excellent all the way to do not use, so let's get started here. Just going to go in alphabetical order as usual. Backstab I think is excellent. Its hijack kills extend hijack by 25%. So when the game came out, this probably didn't have a lot of functionality simply because the class was more forge dependent instead of DPS. But now that Jack has more DPS cards and more useful in that way, this is a great card to run. Anytime you hijack an enemy and kill another enemy, it increases your ultimate duration by 25%. And it does stack pretty quickly, so you can get a boom shot Scion and hijack it and then get like 10 kills and then have the ultimate for like an extra minute and a half or something. It's pretty nice. So definitely a great card to run. Explosive hijack I think is a must-have. If your Jack doesn't have it, it could be an easy wipe. Especially if they hijack a boomshot Scion and then like they don't have explosive hijack, so it doesn't blow up once you are done hijacking it. Hijacked enemies explode and 130% increased radius, so I think that's a must-have. Especially once you hijack large enemies. Taking them out once your ultimate ends is just what you want to do. You don't want to put your team in harm's way by keeping an enemy like a Scion or a Mulcher Scion or a Boomshot Scion alive and then have them not blow up, so definitely a card you want. Healing reach, I'd say it's okay, I guess, average. Increases the healing distance, but they kind of nerfed Jack to where, yeah, you can still heal from far, but sometimes you can't really heal through walls, only for like a second or two, I think. And that kind of made this card not as a little obsolete, I believe, so healing distance is always nice, but it used to be, there was a time where it was a little better. Healing upgrade is below average, I'd say. Maybe even a do not use, just because it does heal you faster, but I haven't really noticed too much of a difference having it on or off, honestly. But yeah, there's not much to say there. It just increases the healing rate of targets that you are healing. Not as useful as some of the other cards, so there you go. Mind Control Expert, I'd say it's above average. Certainly Great card to run in rotation, increases the health of hijacked enemies by 130%. You're not going to notice it if you hijack like an Imago or something, but if you hijack like a Ultra Scion or a Drop Shot Scion or a Boom Scion or a Salvo Scion or whatever, that'll be noticeable in high difficulties, I think, because even if you hijack an Imago, you are likely going to die pretty quickly anyway, so definitely a great card to run to increase the DPS ability of Jack. Optimizer probably was excellent or above average at one point in time, but they nerfed it and then they buffed it again to 150% more power when smelting. They sort of made smelting Jack obsolete at this point because they increased. When the game came out, buying Jack a level 4 Forge was a higher priority, and now you really don't need to do it anymore because they nerfed Optimizer and nerfed Jack a little bit, and they also nerfed the power that you get from heavy weapons, from obviously because of this card you don't get as much from smelting. You also they buffed power taps, so you get more energy from power taps, and it also takes less time to cap them. And because of that, and they also reduced perk costs by about 50%. All of those changes that they made cards like this obsolete, so that's why it's below average now. Portable resupply is average, I guess. It's cool thing about this card is it does give you ammo regen when you're carrying a weapon like a boom or something, so when it's out of ammo or has one boom in it and you want to recharge it, it does recharge it pretty quickly. It also, I believe, cloaks you, which is cool. But yeah, it's average. It's not one of the greatest cards, but definitely not one of the weakest either. It's fine. If you need a weapon, if you need to carry an extra weapon for somebody that doesn't have space on their locker or something, this can be useful for that. Rampage is excellent. So this was a card that was added in Operation 5 when they added skill cards and then they changed the classes to particular names instead of characters. Deal 70% bleeding damage during hijack, so just pair this with backstab and explosive hijack. Get a good enough enemy, you can do pretty good damage here. I don't think the math on it is accurate, but it does do bleeding damage. It may not be exactly 70%, but still, once you're a boom shot with bleed is still better than boom shot without, so definitely a card you want to run. I'd say repair speed's okay. I mean, repair fortifications 130% faster, very useful, but I wouldn't recommend running it unless you either don't have an engineer or you have an engineer. If you do have an engineer, you could run this card if they have a big build or something. Just make sure that everybody is built up and they're perked up and stuff like that. You don't want to be doing this in the beginning of the game because Jack repairs cost a lot of money compared to NG repairing. So this should just be like a repair if you need to, or if you have the money to type of card. I think Sacrifice is kind of average, below average, just because the concept of it is cool. It says revive teammates within 30 meters of hijacked unit death. So if you're running explosive hijack and you blow up an enemy, teammates within 30 meters of it, or whatever the level of the card is, will get revived. That sounds good in theory, like if 4 people were to go down from a boom shot, but I think it's just so rare of a scenario that it's not really worth running. I think you're just better off just manually reviving everybody. Zapper upgrade, again, probably below average too, just because it's just a beginner card. It increases Zapper damage by 130%, which it gives you some DPS, but it's not anywhere near hijacking enemies and using that. Just a beginner card, really. And it's also kind of annoying, especially if you have CQC classes and they're trying to melee combo something. It does stun enemies, but it prevents your teammates from melee comboing things and stuff like that. You can use it in situations where Scion is rushing in the base and you need to stun them if you don't have your ultimate. But it's a beginner card, it's not that great. Looking at this, I'd probably put Healing Reach at the top here, above average. Increased healing distance is pretty useful. I know they nerfed it. I'm changing my mind on that. But yeah, I think this looks better just having 2 cards in each category. I know I have Do Not Use here. There really isn't like a card that's that bad to where I would never use it. But yeah, that's pretty much the tier list for Jack. Alright guys, this is a Horde skill card tier list for the mechanic. So the skill cards at the bottom here, alphabetical order, ranking them from excellent all the way to cards I wouldn't recommend using. And let's get started. Armor plating, I probably put it in above average. Good in certain situations, like when there's double poison mutators, your fortifications are 50% health, resist some damage. Definitely a card you want to run on maps where the enemies are tougher, or there's poison, or there's any mutator where your barriers and sentries and weapon lockers would be taking more damage than normal. Best Friends is a card that was great at one point in time, but now that Jack isn't really a class that's run that much, I feel like anyway that the mechanic repair efficiency is good enough with the other cards that running this is not really worth it anymore. And it also used to work better, I believe, back in the day. Now the Jack has to be really close to get best use of this card, so it's below average for me. Custom Robotics, probably put that there in the same category as well. Fun DPS card to run for your mechanic if you want to run that kind of build and like stay away from the engineering stuff. Do a little more damage with the starting weapons like the Enforcer, M-Bar. Well, Enforcer and Overkill you start with. It also works with the M-Bar, and I believe it does with Salvo too. Efficient Fabrication, I think, is a must-have. That's just 32% fortification cost reduction. You already get 15% off as an engineer, so adding this gives it to 47% off of the initial cost of fortification. So that's something you'll want always as a mechanic. Efficient Sentry, I'd probably put below average too. Reduce the cost to fill up Sentry ammo. That is far too specific of a card. It is funny to see, once you have this card maxed and you have repair cost maxed, it's like almost free to fill up Sentry ammo. Cool to see, but you're likely to be in a situation where you're that dire of money that you need a card to reduce the ammo cost of a Sentry. I think you'll be fine. Once everybody's perked up, to give the money to the engineer anyway, so you really don't need a card like that. Flow I wouldn't recommend using. Damage resistance while repairing is okay, but there's another card that's coming up that's way better, much stronger. Again, way too little resistance to matter. You can sponge an extra bullet from a drone claw or something, but that's it. Boom shots downing you, frags downing you, drop shots downing you. Pretty much anything that's big damage will down you, so not a card worth running. Healing Repair though. Always run this card, never take it off, even when there's double poison mutators. I mean, like poison flushers and poison drones and the barriers and die in like 5 seconds. Still a card I want to run. You can walk through the field and repair stuff middle of the waves. Have things be shooting around you, shooting at you, and you can sponge a bunch as long as you're repairing something that needs health. Ingenuity is also excellent. Again, another repair efficiency, basic repair efficiency card. Mechanic is an engineer, so that's a card that you'll want to have. Increased repair efficiency, that's just comes standard with the engineer, something you'll want to run. Long range resistance, I wouldn't use it. Again, like the other resistance card, far too specific and far too low of a damage resistance to matter. If you get shot by a sniper or a Marxon master, you are likely going down, even with 32% resistance. In order for these cards to be good, they need to be 80, 90% or better, and frankly it isn't, so I wouldn't recommend using. I always bring Overclock. Yes, it's not as great as Robotics Expert's Overclock, but in classes that are highly ammo dependent, they will be thanking you for running this card, so this is always a must-have for me. Overload I think is above average, so this gives you fortifications or half health do 60% more damage. In the later ways, it may be useful to add shock sentries or MG sentries to, watch down pathways and stuff like that, just to assist your team. This also increases the power and the health of the. This also increases the damage of your barriers. You also have a fortification damage perk, so that'll enhance the damage even more. So this is a nice card to run. Usually have it in my rotation pretty often. Personal defense below average. It is fun to use. Consecutive Enforcer hits increase damage up to 100%, so it's like Disciplined, but it's just the Enforcer hits. Pretty decent Makes the Enforcer decent at least, right? But not really the role of an engineer. If you want to play a secondary kind of role, you can run that card. Reinforced Fab, I'd say it's average. Fortification Health is nice, but it's not a card in my normal starting 5 simply because 175% increased fort health is nice. You're going to need it on certain situations where there's like 3 times health, 3 times lethal, double poison, even something like that where the enemies are going to be damaging the barriers more, so they need almost 3 times health. The problem is that it takes that much longer to repair. So it does help you and hurt you a little bit. Robotic Parting I would probably not use. Gives you reduced recoil on DB weapons, but the problem is you're really not going to be shooting that much as an engineer, so it's a solid card for if you're running a DPS build, but otherwise I really wouldn't recommend running Robotic Porting in really any scenario. Rootkit, I'd say it's average. It does reduce your overall ultimate cooldown, so if you're repairing a lot, you can get your turret back as quick as possible, so it's useful for that scenario. Not a terrible card, but not great. Definitely solid though. Then the final card is Shredder Round, so I put that in above average. Turret causes bleeding damage, very useful in ways where things get heavy, things get crazy, or boss waves. Just one thing you gotta notice is that you do want to yell out turret lag to your team. That way they know that you're deploying your ultimate, because usually on most consoles it will freeze their screen for a bit. So just be on the lookout for that. And that is pretty much the tier list for the mechanic. Gonna move on to the next class here. Alrighty guys, let's get started with the Horde skill card tier list ranking for the Robotics Expert class. So cards at the bottom in alphabetical order. I'm going to rank them excellent all the way to do not use. Alrighty guys, let's get started here with Bloody Deer 1. I'm going to put that as average. It's a solid card to run for DPS. Can help you take down enemies during boss waves or during heavy waves, but the problem is sometimes the DR1 doesn't respond. If there's like a reject nearby, it'll just get meleeed to death. So the issue here is just that it's sometimes broken and doesn't the robot doesn't always respond very well, so I would recommend. It's a solid card, but not the greatest card. Bloody Sport's above average. Precision damage causes bleeding when you have your ultimate ready. It's a solid DPS card, so I'd probably put it there. Combat Engineer is excellent. It gives you 330% faster repair when you repair for longer than 2 seconds. Just your basic repair efficiency card. Repairs faster, but it's not cheaper, so again, this is a different class, so still a great card though. Enforcer Porting, I wouldn't use it. Reduced recoil on an Enforcer, too specific of a card, and even if you're running DPS builds, still not a card that I would recommend. Experimental Weapons, I'd put above average. Increased DB weapon damage by 100% to enemies that are, I believe, below 50% health, so it's a great card for finishing off enemies, so recommend that. Also, kill shots of below average. Killing DB on enemies deals damage to surrounding enemies. I think it's okay. It's cool to see like enemies explode when they're down. Your sentries and things will do it too, but it's not enough damage like explosion nearby for it to be very useful. Global Overclock is excellent. This is the fastest overclock of any engineer class. So the mechanic only is 27% faster. This Robotics Expert is 55% faster, so a lot faster. So your your classes that depend on weapons a lot, your demo, your tact, your pilot, gunner, are going to be very happy. Global Sentry upgrade, I'd say it's average. Sentries do 30% more, 35% more damage. It's alright. I mean, the sentries at a level 4 seem to be good enough anyway. Once you perk up fort health and then add this, they can be pretty powerful. So, not a card I run in my top 5, but it's solid. Heavy Resistance, probably don't use again. The issue with the resistance card, same thing. Like I mentioned before, 32% is too low on master to sponge anything worth a decent amount of damage. And heavy weapon damage, that's just too specific. So that's only very little resistance against salvos, Molter, Tri-Shot, Cryo, things like that. I think Homebody's okay. Actually, I probably put it below average just because 32% resistance near taps is nice. It's pretty low. I guess if you're within 10 meters of multiple taps, it could be, it does stack, but again, although kind of a disappointing new card they added, it's okay, but there are certainly stronger cards. I think Inspired Sniping is kind of cool. Sniper hits reduced ultimate cooldown. Multiples 1.6 seconds. Can help you get your ultimate back quicker if you need it for boss waves and stuff. Consecutive hits with the sniper recharge your ultimate in multiples, so like there'll be eventually, if you hit enough sniper shots, you can recharge most of your ultimate in one shot, so that's nice. Melee resistance, wouldn't recommend using more of an escape card. 32% melee resistance. Maybe you can sponge a boom Scion melee with some other cards on, but again, way too little. Nerves of Steel is the other repair card. This one repairs faster when you have enemies nearby, so if you have a down enemy within your barriers, 10 meters of it, it will repair 220% faster. Combine this with Combat Engineer, you can repair very, very quickly. Parting Gift, I'd say it's below average. Increased 100% increased damage with grenade attacks. On Master, the enemies have so much health, I don't even think 100% increased damage is enough to do anything worthwhile, so I don't recommend it. Precision Repairs is a card I put in my above average section. Every kill with a precision rifle heals your barriers and fortifications by 1600 HP, so like if you level 1 barrier, that brings it back in 2 kills. Level 2 would take 3, or a little over 3. Very useful card, just if you have a veteran in the game or something, or you have a few enemies left, get a Marksa or a sniper and like headshot it or kill it, and you'll heal the barriers. So it kind of combines DPS and engineering healing in one card, so really good. And that is pretty much the tier list for the Robotics Expert. And we got one class left of the support classes, and that'll be the Tactician coming up. Alrighty guys, this is a skill card tier list for the Tactician. Got all the cards A through Z listed at the bottom here. We're ranking them excellent all the way to do not use, so let's get started. Battled Hardened, I probably put do not use just because as a standalone card, like I mentioned before, the resistance is too little. 32% resistance to explosive damage is far too little. You're going to go down anyway on high difficulty, so not a card I'd recommend running. Cooperation, I'd say it's average. One of the cards they added in Operation 5, I think, so teammates deal extra damage every time you mark an enemy. The only reason I don't have it higher is because it's just average. I would say 30% is not a huge amount, especially for considering it's a gold card. On boss waves, it could be decent, or on waves where you have heavy scions or something, it could be solid. It just doesn't work on your mark. If you do the damage to your mark, it doesn't work. It has to be a teammate doing damage to your marked shot for it to do anything. Custom Stub and Horde, not really that can be useful. In Escape, it's better, but 60% increased damage is by itself is fine. Is not that great. Not much saying there. Disciplined, I think, is one of the better cards in the game and in this class. Increased ballistic hits, 6% up to 100%. Makes your hammer stronger from the beginning of the game. If you have a Lancer, it's really good at the beginning of the game. Really good on boss waves when you shoot boom shots and then switch to an assault rifle. It does a lot more damage. Extremely good card. I think it's probably better than it advertised, actually, but still one of the best cards in the game. Eagle Eyes, mark 7 additional targets. Like, there's already a card that once you meat shield enemies, it marks even more, so I just don't see that card worth running. So just it's something I wouldn't recommend using. Grenade pouch. In Horde, I'd say it's below average because it's only really useful in scenarios where you need to get extra flashbangs if you're running interrogation and you're meat shielding enemies so that the demolitions can kill everything in the wave. Other than that, by itself, it's below average. Huddle up. I've only used it like once. It's 17% faster resupply rate per teammate. That's not quick enough to warrant running. I mean, a boom shot would still take far longer than it should. Even if you have a whole team in there, then it might be useful, but 17% faster resupply rate is just not worth a card slot, I think. Interrogation, I think, is above average. Very useful in scenarios where you have a large amount of enemies and you have a demolitions in the game. You're running the interrogation spotter support build, and you need to clear the wave. Very useful on like frenzies setups. I've seen a lot of demo attacks run through frenzies using interrogation, especially on maps where the mutators are like triple lethal, triple health, and you want enemies. It makes the run a lot easier. You would always want to run grenade pouch with interrogation. That way, you always have as many flashbangs as possible to meat shield whatever you need to meat shield. Modified hammer burst is below average. You spawn with one, you can do a little extra damage. Once you get enough booms, though, you really won't need it, so that's just why it's there. Recharge bounty, I'd say it's average. The Tactician's ultimate is 5 minutes, like most classes in the game. Every time you mark an enemy, you get reduced ult cooldown once you kill it, but there's already a perk that kind of is this card, so it kind of makes it obsolete, I guess. Resupply amplifier is the larger circle. Increases the resupply radius, so multiple teammates can use it in like a 15-12 meter radius, so very useful. Not a card I always run, but definitely in my rotation for sure. Resupply duration, I think it's mandatory in Horde because they nerfed it to where now it's shorter in Horde than it is in Escape, I believe, so now adding this card makes it equal now. It's like 16 seconds instead of 10. Really nice to get your boom shots and GLs and whatever guns you're using resupplied is for a longer period of time. Healing module, excellent as well. This gives you reduced damage by 63%. Oh man, you can sponge a lot with this card. And the funny thing is, you don't have to be in the circle. You still get the health regen benefits. The resupply just means you have to be using your ultimate, and then you'll get the healing. Now, if you're in the circle, you're going to get more benefits. You're going to get the ammo regen too, but for the healing, you don't have to be in the circle, but you most likely will be if you're using this ultimate. It gives you health regen. Healing benefits, you can sponge quite a bit here. Now, if you're getting mauled by salvos, eventually you will go down, but it is pretty good for damage resistance, healing purposes. Speed loader, excellent. Bypass reload with active rounds during resupply, level 6. You can pretty much shoot booms over and over and over again. You just need to have the perk maxed to 10. That way you have your explosive ammo can resupply, and then you can take full advantage of this card. Spam as many booms, drops, torque blows, GLs as you want during your ultimate. Shredder is a no-brainer. You're obviously going to need that. That's explosive bleed damage. Of course, you can play the class on maps where there's reduced explosive or reduced heavy. You can run disciplined and run the sniper build, but normal tactician build is explosive DPS, so you'll definitely need that. Situational awareness, God, probably one of the weakest, dare I say, useless cards in the game. Automatically mark aggressive enemies for 12 seconds. Like, I've never found the taunting cards any useful at all, so I would never use it. Venom boost, it's Horde, so there's no Venom. And then Venom explosive resupply, again. In Horde, there's no Venom, so you already have a perk that resupplies your explosive ammo. It's the bottom perk. So once you start joining a Horde game, you want to perk that up anyway. So Venom cards are not going to do you anything in Horde. In Escape, those are great, but Horde, they're obsolete, useless, so don't need it. That pretty much sums up the tier list. So the excellent cards are pretty much what I always run. Above average and average cards I would rotate depending on the map and mutators, and then these below average cards would be very situational depending on the setup and the classes that we have in the game. That is pretty much the tier list for the Tactician, and that'll sum up this video for the Horde skill card tier list for all the support classes. Coming up next, I'll have a video on the skill card tier list for the promotional classes in Horde, and then we'll do all 4 classes for Escape, all 4 class sets for Escape. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys have a good one. Peace.